Hi, everybody. My name's Scott Offit. I'm a business solutions consultant here at DFC. Been working with GP for right around 6 or so years. Been with DFC for about a year and a half, closing in on 2 years. I do specialize in the distribution side of GP. It's kind of what my background was in before I started working with GP. So what I'm going to go over today is just a few of the newer features or less used features that I think are pretty helpful for a few of the different tasks that we can use. The first feature that I'm going to go over is the Inventory All-in-One View. I believe this is new for either 2016 or they might have gotten it into 2015 R2. But this view, we can see what's going on with the individual receipt layers and inventory layers in GP, or on one of our items. So if we go to an item card, I've created an item here for today. Just a second here. Okay, at the top of the item maintenance window, you'll see the all-in-one view. If we click on that, it'll load our data, but then we'll see all of our quantity in and quantity out, and if I had any transfers, we'd see those in the middle here as well. The nice feature about this view is we can find out just at a glance details on several different documents. Like with this initial receipt here, if we click on the down arrow, it'll give us details of the transaction itself. We can also drill back and look at the original document that brought the items in just by double-clicking or single-clicking on that the document number there, and it's going to bring us into the inquiry on that transaction where we can see the transaction itself, and if we need to find out something about it, makes it pretty easy. One of the other nice features is this checkbox here. If we mark that, it's going to eliminate anything that doesn't have anything to do with that receipt layer. So here we can see that we have two transactions that took items out of the system that are related to that receipt layer. If we unmark that, we'll see that third one that I also have out there that apparently isn't related to that one. But if we click on this one, actually, it was the other one. This receipt here is related to that, and it's an inventory return. So what this is helpful for is when we start seeing abnormal costs or something like that, so we can kind of start digging into why we have those incorrect costs and start getting back to the root cause so we can correct it at the original layer so that it rolls forward. So and these transactions, you get details on both sides, whether it's an inflow or outflow transaction. We can limit it by site. All of my transactions for this item are at the same site, so this wouldn't help us very much. But it's a pretty powerful tool when we need to start digging into an item. I believe it's on the inquiry too. So if we don't want to allow access to the item maintenance window, we can still get to that screen from the item inquiry and just go to the all-in-one view. Exact same thing. The next thing that I wanted to go over is the copy feature for items. I don't see it used that often, but it is. If we're setting up several items that are quite similar to other items, it speeds up a lot of the setup that you'd have to do for each individual item. So all we need to do that is enter our new item number. Then once we tab off that field, we can go ahead and hit copy. We select what item that we're going to copy from, which is going to be my Learn 01. Tab off the line, and then here's where we get to set up what we are copying from. Say we just want the basic item, we don't want it assigned to the same sites or the vendor. Currency, usually that's fine. Price list, those kind of things, it's going to be individual per item or per company, that kind of stuff. But all we need to do is hit copy, and then we can make our slight edits to that. So I'm just going to change it so that all my item number references are not the same as the previous one. We come in here, we have the maintain, so this pulled from the other item. Most of the settings will pull from the other item. And then all we have to do is hit save, and now we have that duplicate item, and setting up that one item took very little time. So if you have items that are similar or kind of in the same category or family, well, we can do that to speed it up, and you can get items entered, you know, saw how long that took, 10, 15 seconds per item. So if we're not doing a large amount of items, but we have just a handful of them, that's a real quick and easy way to get them entered. The other thing, when we are creating those new items, if we don't want to copy the item assignments, site assignments, we can actually do that now through okay, I'm going to come back to that one in a minute here. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about is that the in GP 2016 R2, they're going to be adding the ability to add barcodes into core GP. So it's going to be on the item itself. So we wouldn't need to have a third-party product or kind of a customization for adding those items in, or those barcodes onto the items. It's going to be part of the standard GP functionality. The GP 2016 R2 is expected to be fourth quarter of this year that it's released. There's a handful of other features, but that's the main one that's on just purely the inventory side. Once that gets added, I believe we'll have a field in here that we can put the either an image of the barcode or just the numerical value of what the barcode is. And from there, we'll be able to have that print on reports, should be able to pull it up in a window, things like that. It's been something that's been requested for quite a while, and they are adding that feature this year. The next thing that I have on my list is reason codes. So I believe it was in GP 2013, they added the ability to have reason codes in your inventory adjustments, your inventory variances, and the inventory transfers. One of the reasons that they did this is so that we could kind of categorize our transactions a little better. That way, if it's a lot to do with reporting, but one of the parts of the functionality is that we can go even past reporting, and we can have specific GL accounts hit for those transactions. And I'll show you the setup window here. So here's our setup for that, and I have one set up right now. But we have a decent amount of customization here. We can have, first of all, you'll see it right by the reason code. We've got the inactive option, checkbox. So that allows us to, if we only want to use something for like year end or something where it's very specific in when we want that reason code to be available to users, we have that ability to shut it off at a click of a button. So that they can't use it. We have the ability to kind of separate them, whether we have them for available for adjustments, variances, or transfers, and we don't need to have them so that they're available for what transactions we don't want to have them there for. So that is a pretty nice feature so that we can kind of separate. So anytime we're seeing a transfer, you're not going to get somebody putting that it's a defective, so they're transferring it as the reason code. We can set up specific default offset accounts for those transactions, or for those items. We don't need to do that. If you set up a reason code that does not have a different offset account, it's just going to use the normal offset account that it would. But something like this, where if we want to be hitting a specific GL account for all of our defective items, we have the ability to do that just by entering that reason code that it's defective. So you can set up pretty much as many of these as you want. If you want to give real specific about everything. You can have it down to just increases and decreases only, or both. So if you wanted to hit specific, you wanted to hit a specific reason code for increases and a specific reason code for decreases, have them hit different GL accounts. You can do that. You can get very, very specific with this, and then, like I said, we can hit different GL codes. But the reporting abilities is kind of the big deal for me, because we can pull that reason code into a smart list, and otherwise, I believe there's a few of the reports also give us options for that reason code as well. And I'll show you just what I'm talking about here. We'll enter that in. Should probably be a negative if we're saying they're defective. Simply post it. So then I'm just going to go into Inventory Smart List, looking at transactions. And right now, it does not have the column, so all we need to do is click on this columns button up here. Look here, it's not there yet, so we'll click Add. are all for the item, they're not for the transaction. Okay, so on this particular smart list, it does not have the availability for that. So we kind of go into one of my other things that I planned on talking about is what we can kind of do with Smart List Designer or Smart List Builder. Smart List Designer is the free Smart List product from that's with Microsoft Dynamics GP. Smart List Builder is from E1. So both are pretty powerful. Smart List Designer hasn't been around as long, so there's a little less functionality there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to just add that reason code onto a smart list here. Okay, this is the one I need. So what we need to do is we just need to join the two transactions. Or join the two tables for that transaction. And let's see, make sure. And theoretically, I'd be having a data pull in on this one. I think I need to fix my link there. But what we can do is we can get that very detailed, so we can be pulling that additional data onto the smart lists for when the smart lists that come with NGP just aren't offering us what we need. The Smart List Builder, we have a little bit better design where we can start using SQL views a little easier, and it has a few different features that Smart List Designer doesn't have. I'm going to move on to a couple other things back on the item here. The first one being the dock attach feature. And what this is we can attach a lot of whatever kind of documents that we want, whether they be schematics, pictures, maybe a parts list of what goes into it. All we need to do is click on this note right next to the item number, and then click on the paper clip once the note comes up, and we'll get to the dock attachment management window. From here, we can just click the attach button, and that'll let us browse out to an image or a document that we can attach. And from here, they're just attaching it. Once it's on here, we just click OK, click attach, and then that changes the icon from a blank note to having the yellow icon instead. Once we save that, once we go into a transaction, then that's when we're going to start being able to see that there's something attached to a specific item. So after we've added the item to the transaction, you'll see that the icon here shows that there's a note. So if we highlight the line, as you can see, when I'm not on that item, it shows as blank. We'll add a different item here. So this item doesn't have an attached document, but this item does. All we need to do is click on that, and we can see that there's a document attached. From here, we can click on the paperclip, have that item, that line highlighted, and then we click preview, and it shows us whatever's attached. So if we had an invoice or a bill or anything like that, or parts list, image of it, we can see that real quick. Works pretty well if you need to know more about that item on the fly. We can do that pretty quick by doing that. Those items are whatever we attach to those are actually now stored. If we use the doc attach instead of the OLE notes, those are actually stored in the SQL database now. So when we do our SQL backups on a nightly basis, we're making sure we still have those documents backed up at all times. So if you have a network issue where you're not able to reach to a shared folder where you keep all of your notes or something like that, or attachments. This prevents that by as long as we're able to reach the SQL server with GP, we're going to have access to those documents. So that's a pretty good feature as far as if we have access to GP, we have access to all of our documents that are attached. I know I've seen in the past where sometimes we'll have a breakdown in the communication between two machines where with like OLE notes and some of the old attachment way, we wouldn't have access to those, and sometimes when we try and rebuild that connection, things wouldn't be linked correctly or at all after that. This is a great way to prevent possible issues like that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is item categories. This isn't something that gets used a lot, but the people that do use it extensively. From an item, if we go to the options window, we'll see these categories, and we have a list of them that is editable for all 6 of those fields. What we do is we go to inventory control to set these up, and in the upper left-hand corner you'll see all our user categories that we have. Creating a new one is pretty straightforward and simple. I hit the blue expansion arrow next. Actually, first we need to enter what we want it to be. So once we have it there, hit the blue expansion arrow, and we'll be able to select it from here. What we can then do is we can assign values that we want them to have to pick from, and we can have images and descriptions associated with each one. For the images, I believe we just need to enter the URL of it or the routing of it, and then we can enter a description as well. And from here, it's just clicking OK. Now any item that I go to, whether they had been set up previously or not, they're going to have that option. If you click the lookup, we can select which one we want. And then from there, it's just hitting OK and save. This is going to be another way for you to filter and categorize your items on various reports and smart lists. This gives you the option of just being more detailed and having flexibility in your reporting for inventory. Okay, so we don't have it out of the box that the categories are there, but that is something that we can definitely add using Smart List Builder or Designer. Actually, user category 6. is... Actually, no, they are there. So it actually uses the category that we set up on it. It doesn't use the name in the table. So what I'll do is I'll add that field, and then we have one item, I believe. So all we're going to do is select that field in our search and have it be not equal to blank. So hitting OK, there's our item. We've got one item. So if we wanted the smart list to have it where every item that is last week shows up there, instead we just do where it is equal to last week. So this gives us a little bit more ability to filter out our items and get more specific on our smart list for whatever reporting we want to do by category. At that point, I did leave a decent amount of time for questions because a lot of times things need to be a little bit more specific to your situations. Did we have any questions at this point? Oh. I don't have any questions, but hi guys, we just got you off mute here. Were there any questions at this point? Okay, since there's not a question